ride with me in this episode, you get to know why it is very important to qualify for the Champions League, why club fans are fuming, are upset, are angry, are not happy, why their clubs are out of the Champions League space, and why it is very, very important to see their team in the Champions League, to experience the blistering, the most absolutely amazing nights of the UEFA Champions League. Please stick with me and ride with me to the end of this video as I list out the most important reasons why it is very, very important and it is very, very mandatory for your club to qualify for the UEFA Champions League. Now you will get to know why. If you're new to this channel, please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and also share your thoughts in the comments. Let's get straight into it as quick as possible. The first reason why it is important to qualify for the Champions League, it is the revenue it brings to the club. The Champions League brings you so much revenue in terms of sponsorship. What I mean by sponsorship is you get an increased revenue in front shirt sponsor, your sleeve sponsor, and other sponsors associated with your club. One thing about sponsorship is every sponsor wants to get visibility. Most people don't watch the Premier League. Most people don't watch the Spanish League. Most people don't watch the Bundesliga League. So, but in the Champions League, every country in the surface of the earth watches the Champions League. And when they watch the Champions League, they must see the front shirt logo. They must see your sponsors that associate with your club. So every sponsor in the club wants that visibility. This is the main aim and objective of that sponsorship. And once it's on a global scale, you get much more money in terms of the revenue that comes in from the sponsorship aspect. Because you can't be paying me the same amount you're paying me for just being in the Premier League and being in the Champions League. It's a different amount entirely. So sponsorship is one, ticketing is another thing, because when you play in the Champions League, you get extra games, and those extra games bring in extra revenues. You understand? Another reason why it is very important to qualify for the Champions League is UEFA pays you for qualifying for the Champions League. UEFA pays you for participating in the group stage. UEFA pays you for participating in the knockout phase. UEFA pays you for qualifying for the quarter-final, the semi-final, the final, and when you win the Champions League. So it brings in extra revenue. It is easier to pay your stars. It is easier to pay your players. It is easier to do any other thing that has to be done. It will be very difficult for you to go into loss for that calendar year when you are in the Champions League. Another reason why it is important to qualify for the Champions League is the ability to attract players. As a footballer, you want to play the biggest level. You want to play the biggest stage in world football. And one of the biggest stages in world football is the Champions League, the World Cup, those kind of big competitions. And as a club, Chelsea, Man U, Liverpool, Barcelona, Madrid, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, all those big clubs have to play in the Champions League for them to attract big players. No top players right now in world football wants to play for teams like Southampton, that doesn't go to the Champions League, teams like Rayo Vallecano that doesn't play in the Champions League. So for you to attract quality in terms of striking department, midfield, defense, whatever department, top coaches and all of that, you need to consistently qualify for the Champions League. Take a look at teams like Aston Villa. They qualified for the Champions League. That's why they were able to get the likes of Asensio. That's why they were able to get the likes of Rashford. That's why they were able to get top players. So it is very important for a club to qualify for the Champions League every season. It is easier to attract quality players than for you not qualifying for the Champions League. When you don't qualify for the Champions League, the only reason you can attract big players is if you spend more. At that point, you are spending more in terms of salaries, and it can have an after effect at the end of the season. Why? Because you're not getting extra revenue from the Champions League, you're not getting extra revenue from sponsorships, you're not getting extra revenue, so it is important for a club to actually attain that Champions League status. That is the aim and objective of every club at the end of the season, apart from winning trophies. The Champions League qualification is one of the most important at the end of the season. Another reason why it's very important to qualify for the Champions League is pressure on the board. What I mean is, once you qualify for the Champions League, there will be less pressure on the board, especially the board that actually buys expensive players, especially board that pays high wages, especially board that has that has this big. Take for example like Chelsea. Chelsea has to qualify for the Champions League. Why? Because look at the money the board have spent. Look at the fan base around the world. Once you have a very large fan base around the world, it is very important for you to be in the Champions League. You can't be out of the Champions League for long because there will be increased pressure on the board. Why? Because they feel like the board has no direction. The board doesn't know what they are doing. The board is just there to make profit. That's exactly what is happening in Chelsea. I'm taking Chelsea for an example right now. So it is very important to qualify for the Champions League to reduce the pressure on the board, because at that point, if you don't qualify for the Champions League every season, it feels like the club is going on a downward scale right now. The club doesn't have a direction. Things are not working well in the club. You know, the club doesn't belong to the elites anymore. The club can't compete at the highest level anymore. So it is very, very important for a club to qualify for the Champions League. Why? To maintain the high status, to compete at the highest level, to still hold down the fan base around the world, and to reduce the pressure on the board. So it is very important for a club to qualify for the Champions League. Another reason why it is important to qualify for the Champions League is so your players don't leave seeking UEFA Champions League football. If you don't qualify for this season, your players might be, okay, fine, we still have a chance to qualify next season. If you don't qualify next season, some players can leave seeking Champions League football. So it is very important to qualify for the Champions League, because you will lose your best players. UEFA Champions League clubs will come calling. They will come and buy your best players, and your best players have no choice than to leave, because they also want to compete at the highest stage of football. You can't tell me, okay, stay with me, I'll qualify for the Champions League this year, you don't qualify. I'll qualify for the Champions League next year, you don't qualify. Most of your best players leaves. That's when the likes of Real Madrid, Liverpool, and those big clubs will come calling and buy out your best players. Every good player wants to play in the Champions League, and to play in the Champions League as a club, you require to buy the best of the best players to compete at the highest level. And when do you get the best of the best players? Some smaller clubs. So if you don't qualify for the Champions League, those clubs come calling and buy some of the best players out and give them the opportunities to play in the Champions League. So it is very important to qualify for the Champions League so as not to lose your best players. Losing your best players is like you starting from square one again. For you to attract good players, for you to develop good players, for you to make your players be at the same par with those competing in the Champions League. So it is very important to qualify for the Champions League. Another reason why it is very important for a club to qualify for the Champions League is like you giving your fan base and potential buyers and potential players that you have a strategy. You have a plan that is working. Once you qualify for Champions League every season, it gives this clear definition to players you want to attract, to fans, to people who want to associate with your club in terms of sponsorship, that you have a clear plan, you have a clear strategy, you are moving to an upward level. This is not a small club anymore. This is an elite club. No football player, no investor, no fans actually wants to associate with a club that has no direction, that has no purpose. You can't just be a fan of a club, or you can't just invest in a club that you don't understand the direction that the club is actually headed. The more you qualify for the Champions League, the more it gives you the opportunity to win it. Qualify for the Champions League, it gives you the opportunity to attract players, give you the opportunity to attract investors, whereby increasing your revenue to buy more players, increasing your revenue to attract good players, increasing your revenue to actually build a new stadium, increasing your revenue to actually do important things in the club, improving your facility. So it is very important to qualify for the Champions League. Please share your thoughts in the comment. Please add to this list if you think there's any other reason why it is very important to qualify for the Champions League. Please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel until I come away again next time. I remain your boy Mike Way. Stay cool. Cheers.